Back on the show now is one of my favorite guys to talk MMA to, and of course it is UFC bantamweight Tony Gravely back on the show. Tony, how you doing?
Doing great, buddy. How about you?
Doing fantastic, and happy to have you back as always, man. It's been a little while since we've seen you compete last, a little over a month now, and man, you looked fantastic. A round one KO victory over Johnny Munoz Jr. at UFC Vegas 56. I think it's safe to say this has to be one of the premier performances of your career. How happy are you just with the end result?
Extremely happy. It's one of those things that I've learned. I've learned it's okay to be happy with things that for the longest time it was like one of those things that you can never be satisfied. And I'm maturing a little more and understanding that it's okay to be happy with things that you do. It felt great, to get a quick one. You train so hard for 15 minutes, or as hard as it's going to be. At least I do. I prepare for every fight to be just as hard, or the most intense fight I've ever had. So when you get in there and you get one that goes pretty quick, it feels really good, even better.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, as good as you felt to get that win in impressive fashion, how disappointed were you that you didn't get a performance bonus, man? I thought you were a lock to get that 50K. That has to have been a really bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it sucks. It's one of those things where I hate to say that it took away from the win, because like I said, at this level, I'm extremely grateful for everything. The opportunity, I'm extremely grateful for the fact that I went in there against another skilled athlete at this level and came away with a win, not only with a win but no injuries. So for that I'm extremely grateful. But to have gotten the bonus would have been like perfect. Would have been the perfect night. But I did all I could do to get it, as far as I know. And I guess it just happens like that sometimes. I thought it was weird that the following week, though, they gave out like 9.
Yeah.
It was like everyone that got a finish got a bonus. So I don't know. I know there'll be more to come. My job's to go out there, for one, keep winning, two, keep getting finishes, and be exciting, and they'll come.
So you said to me leading into this fight, Tony, that your power was on point in camp. You just felt really good. And you told me that you were going to go in there and knock him out, which is exactly what you did. What did you notice in camp that led you to believe that, your power was going to be the difference here in this fight?
It's just everything clicking together. No one particular thing. It was just all of the things that I've been doing. I feel like my body's working the best it's worked, and it's a bunch of different things. A little bit of more rest, more sun. Um, Having goals when you go into practice, when you go into sparring. My coach, C. Bruno, he says something to me which I think is really cool. He says, right before we spar, he says, "What kind of moves you gonna do?" You don't think about stuff like that. A lot of people don't. You just go on a spar and you think, I'm going to spar this guy. You don't think, all right, I'm going to do more body kicks, I'm going to do more body punches, more liver punches, move my head more. You don't think about stuff like that unless someone asks you some stuff like that. So things like that, just focusing on specific things each time. Trying to win every round I can, things like that. The little things, the things that everybody knows, the no secret. Just been believing in myself and believing in the process and my training. And you can feel it when it happens, and that you are at your best. I think Johnny Eblen said something really good. If you watched Johnny Eblen win the Bellator title, he said it just felt right. Just felt right. Everything just felt right, and it worked out. So just grateful for that.
Man, since you mentioned Johnny Eblen, goodness gracious, man, I got to be honest with you. So, I mean, look, I know that he's a tough guy, and I'm clearly now he's the Bellator middleweight champion. But going in against Gegard Mousasi, who's a legend of the sport, I didn't see it coming. Like I get, apparently I don't know Johnny as well as the rest of you guys do at ATT. But did you guys feel with his skill set that this was his fight to go in there and win?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny's like you get people that are like, they're just different. They're just like a unicorn. Maybe they aren't necessarily He's not may not be the most athletic, but they know how to make themselves do their best, and they thrive on like being the underdog, and they thrive on having all the lights on them. And Johnny's just one of those athletes that he does all the little things right. And he's in really good shape, and he's always learning. He's very versatile, and we know how good Johnny is, and even still, it's realistically it is hard because you see Gegard Mousasi and all the guys he's beat, and it is hard to picture someone, especially like someone with like I think Johnny may be like 12-0 now. So with that few fights, beating Gegard Mousasi, so it was in my head I knew it would happen, but still it's kind of weird to watch in a way. Not weird, but it makes you feel even better for Johnny to watch because you know what Gegard has accomplished, and it still takes nothing away from what he's done because he's still a legend in MMA.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Very, very impressive performance, man. He looks like someone that's going to be a mainstay for a very long, long time. Now, we did talk about one of your teammates, Danny Sabatello, the last time we did an interview. So since we're talking about Bellator, I just want to stick with this theme for a minute. He picked up another big win and proceeds to let everyone know exactly how he feels. He really is a gem, man. Like he is a fun interview, and he's a nice I guess nice spice of life to the Bellator bantamweight division. When you look at his next fight, right, against a really tough guy, Rafion Stotts, the interim champ, break this one down for me, Tony. How do you see it going?
Honestly, I see it going the same as it always does. Maybe Danny realistically may have a little bit harder time taking him down, but he's got his game plan. It's locked. That's what he does. That's what he's really good at. And I feel like he's going to implement the same game plan. The same one that's got him there, which is smart. May not. Some people may not think it's the most exciting, but realistically, the name of the game from the fighter side is to win and to take as little damage, and that's what he does. And I think the next fight will be the same. Honestly, I think this may be his toughest test out of all the people, just because um, he Stotts is a really good wrestler. He's got good striking too, and I think it's gonna force Danny to mix it up a little bit more. But I think it's gonna still go in Danny's favor, and I think it's gonna look pretty similar to a lot of Danny's other fights. We're pretty dominant.
So you're
But some scraps. It's gonna be scrappy, but it can still be dominant and still be scrappy though.
so you're predicting a unanimous decision victory for Sabatello using his wrestling.
I think so.
Okay, man. And so
But
like
you
this is
never know. You never know. His striking is better than people think. So I mean, he's got the striking to do it as well. But if it's one of those things that I'm sure he knows what to do. If his wrestling doesn't feel like it's at its best, I'm sure he'll strike more and then go back to it. So, but that's how I think it'll go.
okay, yeah. Well, it wouldn't surprise me based on how he's looked recently. I want to ask you this too, because this is kind of a tough question, and I feel weird sometimes when I talk to Bellator fighters about this, because Bellator is the number two promotion in the world, right? The UFC is number one, Bellator is number two, and anyone that is ranked in the Bellator, whatever division it may be, is a highly skilled fighter. But there's this perception out there that Bellator, it's like the JV league of the UFC, and anyone that wants to be a world champion, they have to do it in the UFC, right? How do you feel the skill differential is between the top guys in, like, let's just use the bantamweight division for an example, the top guys at 135 for Bellator versus the UFC? Is there a big difference? And the second question to that is, how would Danny Sabatello do in the 135 division in the UFC?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I also, a long, long time ago thought the same. When Bellator first came around, things like that, a long time ago, and then growing up. So, but I've known the older I've gotten, the more mature I've gotten, the more I've watched fights, I realize that you're right. The guys in the bantamweight division in Bellator is a really tough division, and I seriously think those guys that are at the top, a lot of the guys that are in the Grand Prix, those guys could also be ranked in the UFC as well. So realistically, you can't look at someone's. The promotion doesn't make the fighter, right? The promotion just promotes the fighter. So fighters can be good everywhere. Just because you're not in the UFC doesn't mean you're, great. I mean, not good. And next year that person could be signed to UFC. So but yeah, I think the bantamweight division in Bellator, that would be a good mix, and if that could mesh and we could see how that could work out, that would be pretty cool. But I do believe that there are some guys in the bantamweight division in Bellator that would be top 15 in the UFC.
Okay, yeah, I mean that wouldn't surprise me in the least. There's a lot of talent on the Bellator roster, regardless of division. Let me ask you this: not naming any names, but do you ever hear guys that are signed to Bellator that talk about wanting to be in the UFC? Is that like an active conversation that goes on at the gym?
Uh, Sometimes, but usually, when you commit to a promotion, some fighters get paid the same as UFC fighters, and some fighters don't care about the name of the promotion. They just want to provide money for their family. They just want to compete. They don't care. But I think realistically, a lot of people, everybody knows the UFC, and it's not that the UFC is necessarily has all the best fighters, but everybody likes that name, everybody likes that brand, and everybody wants to be a part of that. And but there are some fighters that don't care. They just want to compete. They want to fight. They want to win. They want to make money. And it all depends on the person. So
Mm.
everybody fights for a different reason. Everybody's got different end goal, different journey. So but amongst the gym, I mean, I haven't heard anyone complaining about wanting to be in one promotion but or at the other. So everybody that I've talked to, pretty much they're all just grateful for the promotion that they fight for.
Okay, yeah, very, very well said. Now, as far as what you're doing right now, obviously you just fought. I imagine if you were offered the right opportunity, you'd step up and fight again soon, as long as you're healthy. Although I do see over your left eye right now, there is a little mark there. What
Yeah, yeah,
happened? Did that happen in camp? I imagine.
yeah. So actually, I clashed heads with somebody. I was sparring Alexandre Pantoja, and it was like the last little bit of the last round, and we both dip our heads at the same time, and then he hits me, and it cut open. This is actually the first time I've ever been cut, ever had to get stitches ever, out of all my fights, all the training. So everybody's like, you're way overdue for a cut, so but luckily, it's the best time to happen. If there was any better time, I don't have a fight. I'd much rather it been me than Pantoja, since he fights soon. So it sucks that I'd have to take some time off with helping, sparring with him and getting rounds with him. But yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so that injury right there, that would probably push your next fight out a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit, because I get them taken out next Monday. So I'm not sparring this week, won't spar next week. I still able to work out hard. The drilling that we do, I can still drill just as hard, just less actual contact. But I've still been drilling, just been very careful. And if we've been doing drilling where it's contact, I just put the headgear over top of my band-aid, and then so I've still been working out, so not doing nothing because of it, but haven't done any live training, no sparring, no live wrestling, live grappling. So that would, yeah, that would put it back a little bit if something came up. So
Okay. Well, okay. So perfect time frame. When are you hoping to jump back in there? If everything's healthy, your eyes, back to normal there. Like what's the best time frame are you thinking? Maybe later this summer?
yeah, I mean, realistically, when my eye heals, I could be ready, pretty soon after that, but realistically, I'm probably, my guess at this point, if like nothing comes through, short notice, then probably like September, October maybe is what I would guess, gives me time to gives me time for let my eyebrow do its thing, and then just kind of help everybody else, that's help some people that have fights, and which also gets me ready to prepare to fight myself. So
Okay. I want to ask you about some potential matchups. I was looking at the top 15 in the bantamweight division earlier today. And, Tony, I feel like you're getting really close to getting a crack at one of those guys at the latter half of the top 15. So there's three guys that are tied right now at 15: Adrian Yanez, Umar Nurmagomedov, and Rafael Asensio. Start with Yanez. He's someone that's really becoming a big name. Do you like that fight? How do you feel like that fight would play out if you and Adrian were matched up?
Yeah, I do like that fight. That's a fight that I think would be a good matchup for me, and stylistically a good matchup for me. Obviously, we know Giannis has really fast hands and he's really good striking. And I like the way he fights. Everybody likes the way he fights. You got to respect the fact that guy goes in there and he knocks people out. He gets bonuses all the time. So definitely a tough fighter, fun to watch. But I think it would come down to mixed martial arts. It wouldn't just be striking. At their kicks, I'd grapple. So I think if you stylistically all together, I think the grappling would make the biggest exchange. I don't know if we. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him fights where he's had to grapple. So you don't know what his grappling's like. I don't know if he can keep the same pace if he gets grappled. So and obviously I like to grapple. Um, I like to strike as well, but I can do everything, and obviously that would be the key to victory is mixing it up.
Do you feel like that would be a fight where you potentially might not get a finish? It would be a decision. You just kind of beat him with your wrestling grappling, or do you feel like you could finish him?
I feel like I could finish him. I could finish him on the ground. I can hit almost as hard on top as I can on the bottom. I mean, as I can on the feet. And also I don't have the best jujitsu in the world, but I have pretty good jujitsu. I just happen to be fighting black belts all the time that are really good to get in dominant jujitsu positions with. So it'd be a good fight to actually be able to show like some progression on the ground on the top.
Mhm. Okay. And so I did mention Umar Nurmagomedov and Rafael Asensio. Jack Shore's number 14, Sean O'Malley's number 13. Out of those names right there, I mean, obviously Sean O'Malley's got a monster name, so that would be someone that you'd love to
Yeah.
step in there with. So let's just start with him right there, right? When you look at his skill set, and he just fought someone that I believe you would know pretty well, Pedro Munoz, and that fight ended rather unfortunately. First off, what was your thought on how that fight went, and how would a fight with you and Sugar Sean play out?
So the fight with Pedro, it was a little weird. Anytime there's like an eye poke and it's very like um it sucks when a fight gets stopped for some reason like that or another. That sucks. But it looked like maybe it wasn't a super big eye poke, but to get poked in the eye, I don't know if you've been poked in the eye before, but it doesn't feel good. It could take the slightest thing, and it's weird because eyes are so delicate, so fragile. You can get scratched pretty easy. So um, from what I hear, I guess that's what happened. Maybe his something got scratched in his eye. Obviously, reason why he couldn't continue, and which sucked. I would like to have seen more fight along with everybody else. We like to see a lot of the um, you know. Most people would like to see O'Malley get beat up. Some people want to see him, pass the test of fighting someone that's seasoned. But there was a lot left unknown. So, but they may run it back. I guess that realistically, that's the only way to get to the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, in a fight or two or three or however long it may be, you're fighting Sean O'Malley. Do you believe that you have the style to go in there and to beat him?
I think my style's a nightmare for him. Like it's I'm a good grappler. We then again we don't know if his grappling is great or not. Like I said, we haven't really seen a lot of it. But I do know that I do know that he's not a 3 round grind type of fighter. I know that. He's not very durable. He's a little fragile, not the most fragile, but he's not quite as durable. He's known to get hurt a little. And I think a fight where you just push the pace and you stay in his face is the way to beat him. I don't think he does a lot better when he's leading and when he's feinting and you're biting off feints and you give him space. But we haven't seen anybody not give him so much respect and get in his face and make him have to clinch and wrestle and do all the stuff that isn't so pretty, you know. So I think um, no, obviously I think that will wear him out, and I think that would be the way for probably anybody, you know, anybody to beat him. That's why I would like to see him go against a grappler, you know, and I would love to be that grappler to get to do that, you know, because there's a side of people where whether you hate him or love him, and it doesn't matter whether I like him or don't like him, but I don't dislike him. He might be an art. I've been telling my wife he might be a cool guy, you know. He might just be putting on this whole thing. He might be a cool guy, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, I would like to fight him, and I like to, you know, realistically, you know, as far as hype and name, he is kind of like the Connor of the bantamweight division. He may not be as skilled as Connor or whatever. We don't know yet. He might be, but you know, he's got that name and he's got that following, and everybody, you know, at the end of the day, whether you admit it or not, would like to steal a little bit of that.
Sure. Would you ever consider, you know, doing something like Sean O'Malley and maybe coloring your goatee all the color of the rainbows or up top?
No, 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 no. I can't do that. I just keep it plain. I'm not really a dyeing hair kind of person. I'm pretty old school. Just leave it. Pretty basic haircuts, stuff like that.
Yeah, I
That's
knew
not
the
my
answer. Yeah, I knew the answer to that before I asked. I just thought I'd have a little fun. So, who do you think makes the most sense for you next, Tony? I know you're not, you know, a crap talker or anything like that, but is there someone out there that you feel like really just makes the most sense for you next?
Um, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how it works really, to be honest. You know, I look at names and I follow all the fights. I watch all the fights, and you know, there's a lot of guys that I would like to fight, and I don't know. Um, there's so many guys that are on the cusp of being top 15 and either have been kicked off, like, you know, somebody else won and they got passed. But honestly, I really don't know. But you know, I've talked about this before, and you know, mentioned when to fight Chris Gutierrez, and you know, not like I'm trying to bully him or anything. And I'm only saying this because he mentioned it first. You know, it's not like I'm like trying to attack this dude and like, and he's no slouch. You know, it's not like I'm looking for an easy fight, because he's not an easy fight. He's a tough guy. He's a durable guy. And I think he, as well as Jonathan Martinez, I think those are two guys. They may even be from the same gym, but they're very similar styles that I think would make a good complete MMA fight. You know, so those are fights that I like. There's a bunch of other, you know, some other people too. I have some names I don't remember. Actually have a list on my phone of different names of people, and most of the time I end up running into these people. It's crazy how it works. I actually have end up fighting these guys that were on my list. So, you know, with that being said, that could be a sign that, you know, maybe that happens at some point.
So, just to reiterate, you feel like September or October is the time frame where you feel like you'll probably be back in there next?
I think so. You know, that'll give me a little bit to you know, keep my body. I'm trying to still be mature about the process of learning my body, and, you know, just listening to myself, things like that. And I think, you know, I've been doing more of that lately, and I've been, in my eyes, more successful lately. So that's, I think, realistically, maybe like September, um, October, anytime before that could still be great. But I think, you know, ideally, for my optimal performance, I think I would say September, October.
Okay. Tony, it's always great talking to you, my man. Before I do sign off here today, I did have one other question related to UFC 276. Man, Alexander Volkanovski is so darn good. He went in there and just put a clinic on Max Holloway, which another one I didn't see coming. I thought it was going to be much more competitive than it actually was. I mean, I'm a big fan of both Max and Volk. So my question is, they're teasing him going up and fighting for the title at 55. Do you feel like Alexander Volkanovski has what it takes to go in there and beat Charles Oliveira or one of the other top guys at 55 and be a legit competitor there?
I don't know, man. But the thing is you still got to remember that this guy used to be 200 something pounds, and he has 215, 20-pound man strength at 145. So, you always argue that the smaller guy going up, is he going to be strong enough? I don't think that's going to be a difference. Like, that's going to make a difference because he's so strong. But Oliveira is just so good. Like, I doubted him his last couple of fights, and now I just feel like I don't need to, like I shouldn't, I've like, thought that he was. You watch him go out there, he gets knocked down the first round, and you think, oh, he's out of here. Then he comes back and somehow gets the finish. So, but and then it's hard to see someone like Volkanovski lose when you've never seen these people in these positions and losing. We've seen him in positions where he's almost got caught, but he got out. So, honestly, I can't see him beating Oliveira though. I am a Volkanovski fan. I do like him. I definitely like him, the fact that he's smaller, and it gives me hope as a small guy. But he's not. Take that back. He's not small as in like a little skinny guy, but he's a shorter man,
Mm.
small for the weight class, but he still dominates. So it gives me hope as a bantamweight that the little guy, can still go out, beat these really long guys, even in striking, can still do what I need to do, being at a disadvantage size wise.
Mm. I'll tell you what, man, as an MMA fan, looking at it from that point of view, whoever they match him up with next, it's going to be must see TV, because it's just going to be a banger of a fight. And I'm sure you'll be right there glued to the TV, or who knows, you might be fighting on that very card. It might be watching it cage side.
I might be that. That would be cool, So, even though I'm in the UFC, and like, people think that I'm still at the point to where I'm still somewhat of a fan of these people, even though I try not to be, because especially you have teammates fighting them, it's your team on their team. It's like, oh, forget that dude. I'm with this guy, So, but a PC does still have people that you enjoy to watch fight and things like that. And Volkanovski is one of them. I think he's definitely one of the most underestimated in a way too. And I think after this third one, it kind of like, I guess maybe people respect him more just because they know how great Max Holloway is. And like I said, just because you beat someone doesn't mean that you steal all of their greatness, but it also just shows that, you're just the next step above that. So they should respect you the same way.
Yeah, for sure. Very well said. Tony, always great talking to you, my man. Before we do sign off here, I want to give you the floor as always. Please tell people where they can follow you on social media. And if you have anyone to thank, the floor is yours.
Tony Gravely 135 on Instagram and Twitter. Likes and shares and all that stuff's always appreciated. I appreciate all the support in any way possible. Thank you as always for supporting me. You've been supporting me for a while now. Probably maybe like close. I think like 4 years now. I think it may be 4, maybe close to 5 years. So I appreciate you and you giving me the platform to come on here and share a little bit of my story, and talk about my fights, things like that. So I truly appreciate that. And American Top Team as always. My coach Steve Bruno, Coach Bahumpa, my corners, and my wife, everybody, Dan Lambert, Conan. Well, my wife's not part of ATG, but she actually is in a way, kind of through me. But everybody ATT, everybody that from back home in Virginia, North Carolina, throughout the whole country that supports me. I appreciate everything. I guess that's it. I'm just supportive. I'm super appreciative of all the support in any form, and just grateful to be able to do something that I love for a living.